But he was going to use the oil money for the Iranian people and become a first world nation. Now, once he got kicked out, the Shah started double-crossing him, as Tarpley's talked about, by the late 70s. So they planned to bring in their CIA-controlled Ayatollah Khomeini into the country, and that's why they had arms for hostages deals and all that stuff you saw, and then they double-crossed the West again. It's on record they brought the Ayatollah Khomeini in. It's on record they supported him. This is how this stuff works. And in hindsight, it's all on record. So that's why they hate Iran so much, is they've double-crossed him repeatedly. And so we've said it over and over again, the globalists have to have a war. They are politically in so much trouble now. The only way they're going to kickstart their global government and their banking takeover is to create crises that make us as humans gather around. You go back 3,000 years ago, let's say where Berlin is today in Germania, and you may not like, you know, your chief Hrothgar or whatever his name is, or your chief Alaric, whatever Vandal or Visigoth name he's got, and he may do bad things to you, but when the neighboring tribe comes pouring up over the hill and across the valley and starts coming across the river, you're going to forget how much you don't like Hrothgar, and you're going to mount up and get ready for war to defend your family. And it's the same thing. They understand human psychology. As much of a civilization as we've built, we are still just tribal creatures. And the globalists understand psychology, and they know how to manipulate us. And they understand these tricks. And so if you've just won World War II with the Soviets, and the Soviets are fully U.S. funded, on record in 1970, funded by the U.S. and British government, on record, to overthrow the Tsar, what are you going to do? You've just divided Europe up with the Soviets, and you go, how do we invade more countries? This is great. How do we now have an empire? Well, we act like we're opposing each other, and we have proxy wars all over the planet. You take half, we take half. That's what me and Hitler did, Stalin said. This is on record now. Yeah, we'll do that. Sounds great. And if our government would just write off 22,000 U.S. troops because it was easy, or would just openly talk about committing half of Europe over to Soviet tyranny, the Soviets had already killed at least 40 million people up until that time, your life means nothing here in America. The only issue is you have a history of guns, a history of the Second Amendment. And that's why they said, well, we've launched this Soviet takeover operation worldwide. What are we going to do? The American people have got all these guns. Well, they'll give up most of their rights in the name of fighting communists, while we incrementally set up wealth redistribution and get them domesticated. Later, this is all in the Rand Corporation documents, Club of Rome documents, CFR documents, you know, the merger. We had Bilderberg Group documents, what the Tucker got a year and a half before the Berlin Wall was brought down. That was all staged. And they said that we'll get them to give their rights up in the name of fighting communists. But then at the key point, we'll say communism doesn't exist when we actually set up communism here domestically, and we're just going to merge all these countries together. Then we'll use the U.S., Europe, and China to mop up the rest of the planet. But things don't always go the way the New World Order wants. The Russians are as crooked as a barrel of snakes, but they're old corruption, old evil. And they want to survive. They have a Russian identity. They still have a culture. They're paying their people for over a decade to have babies because they've lost over 30 million of their people through eugenics. They're openly talking about the New World Order, and they want their own system. And if you look at the splits, and Brzezinski talks about this, China is more allied with Europe and the U.S. Russia is that wild card, and it's still engaged with the globalists. It's still interfacing. But going back over the last decade, Vladimir Putin arrested all the oligarchs. And every time they got arrested, it turned out they were CIA fronts or Rothschild fronts. That was in the news. You know, he would seize a company, and it would turn out, oh, it doesn't matter, the assets are already in Europe. They're already in England. And so those are all the different power blocks out there. And there may be a deal later with the Russians to double-cross China again. I mean, there's no honor amongst these people. And so now we stand at the precipice. U.S. military told, get ready. In Korean standoff, Obama orders commanders to prepare to deter further aggression with military operations. South Korea threatens war if North Korea makes one more provocation. They've said if you enter our territorial waters, our airspace or territory, we will respond militarily. So this could start any time. And notice, right as the banks are in trouble, right as the global government is being formed, right as they're out in the open, suddenly we've got to attack Iran. Suddenly, North Korea is out there engaged in provocations. And publicly stating provocations. I mean, this isn't a false flag, all the evidence shows on North Korea, because this is their posture. This is what they want. And there's no doubt Kim Jong-il is liaisoning through the Chinese, and this is all a rigged game. This is all a ruse to threaten South Korea, to keep U.S. forces there, and they may even have a military exchange. The war may start again. And, you know, there won't be an instant decapitation. They've done the analysis. They know the North Koreans want to get out of the slavery. No, there won't be a nuking of the capital. There won't be a wiping out of the troops on the front lines. No, they'll just keep them there because they like North Korea. They like how Kim Jong-il gets things done. They like people being total dehumanized slaves. People running our government liked killing 22,000 of our own vets. They hate you. They hate America. They hate freedom. They want to make you domesticated animals. So they're getting ready to really stage some big events. The CIA and its allies in control of the United States and the world. The Secret Team by Fletcher Prouty. Colonel Prouty. This is the book the CIA does not want you to read, available at Infowars.com. The head of Black Ops for the Pentagon for 9 years. Of course, 25 years in the Air Force. Very important book. Available at Infowars.com, now back in print. Invisible Empire, New Order Defined. And, of course, Don't Tread on Me, dealing with a way to take the country back at the state level. Okay, I meant to get into the massive political awakening and realignment that's happened. And that's why the globalists have to launch World War III. That's why they've got to start giant crises. Because Merkel has lost the parliamentary elections. They have those in phases in Germany. So next time there's an election, she's going to be out of office. Sarkozy lost his parliamentary elections, is barely hanging on. Gordon Brown lost and is now gone. A new puppet's in. In Hawaii, the first Republican elected to the Congress in 20-plus years. In Obama's district, you see the Kennedy seat being lost in Massachusetts. You see Rand Paul trouncing the neocon candidate in Kentucky. You see the same thing with an anti-establishment Democrat beating Specter in the primary. Same thing, anti-establishment Democrat coming from nowhere, trouncing the establishment Democrat in Colorado over the weekend. People just go in and say, okay, who's the media telling me I should vote for? I'm going to vote for the opposite person. And that really threatens the system. That threatens the shadow government. Because they got a bunch of puppets in Congress that'll do whatever they're told. So all over the world, people are resisting these governments that have become vassals or tools or minions of the offshore banks. What did Brzezinski talk about last week to the CFR? For the first time in history, the entire world is awake to our world government. We have never been in a crisis this great. They are fully aware of us and our operations. This makes it very hard for us to continue the expansion of global governance. That's basically what he says. And so, what do? They don't play games. I mean, they grow opium and ship it into the country publicly. They ship the cocaine in publicly. They don't care. Shut up, so some of you know we bring it in. You pathetic scum, soon we have world government in place, we eliminate you all. I mean, you know, these guys are they love it. They love to get up and publicly tell us what they're going to do to us. They enjoy it. Well, I think more of people. I think we're men. I think we're going to wake up to all their tricks and their games. Yeah, we weren't paying attention before, but we are now. And so I'm going to tell you right now, folks, since the end of the official war with North Korea, we've never been in more danger on the peninsula. And we've never had a bigger danger with Iran or stage terror attacks. You know, the globalists are going to start wars and stage terror attacks to go after all their enemies.